What's up, brochachos? It's boy Tanner Wyman of Barbarian Body. And today's video, we're going to be covering a topic I get asked all of the time. It's in regards to these things right here, the V-lines. Everybody wants to know. I'm always getting asked in the comment sections, how do you get them so defined? How do you get them at all? Today I'm going to tell you the exact method that I personally used to develop my V-line abs. Let's get into this one. Okay, so the main thing that we gotta know here is what muscle groups are we gonna be targeting in order to get these things, okay? So the reason mine are so thick is this is a muscle right here. This is your oblique muscle, okay? And my oblique muscle is incredibly strong and muscular, and it's ever prevalent, okay? So we got the oblique first, and then we got our lower abdominal muscles here. So those are two, because that's where the V-line comes in, right? That's where it starts to cut in. So we get the oblique right in about here, and then we cut in, and we get the lower abdominals there, and it'll just keep going lower and lower. So I got the shorts there. It'll keep going lower and lower because of the lower abdominals as well. So both those muscles play a huge role into this. So we need to focus with exercises targeting specifically the obliques and the lower abdominal muscle groups. Now the first thing that I need to mention here, if you have too high of a body fat percentage, you guys are not going to be able to see your V-lines no matter how hard you try. It's the same thing with a six-pack. The first thing you need to do, okay, if you have more body fat percentage than me, you think you have like 5% or more, actually maybe like 7% body fat or percentage or more than I currently do, then the very first thing that you guys need to do is to burn that body fat. I have a video right here, how to lose lower belly fat. Follow those rules first before you even start this, okay? Okay, so the first thing we're gonna start with, I've got 3 killer exercises for the lower abdominals, and then after that, we're gonna get into the oblique exercises. My last exercise I have is the one that I think I truly credit the V-lines to. Like, these things predominantly were from the last exercise, so stay tuned for that. But all four of these exercises I'm about to give you guys right now, incredibly beneficial as well. So don't skip over them, they're extremely beneficial. Just pay special attention to that last one. So my very first exercise to target the lower abdominals is one that I absolutely love. And this is like a seated leg lift on a bench, okay? Now what you want to try and do when you're performing this is keep the torso, everything from your butt up, completely stationary, and all you're doing is just lifting at those hips. So how I've seated myself is at the very end of this bench, like the very end. So the point where your glutes and your hamstrings meet together, that's where the end of the bench is, okay? In that slot of muscle right there. And I've got my hands positioned behind me just so I can keep my balance, and I'm just lifting those legs by focusing on targeting those lower abdominals. Now, when it comes to any lower abdominal exercise, you're gonna notice a ton of hip activations in your hip flexors and the upper quads. That's totally fine, and in fact, that will actually help to increase the amount of definition that you're gonna get in the V-line area. So if you're feeling that and you're kind of worried about it, because I know some of you guys probably be like, dude, what'd I do? My hip flexors, don't worry, it's totally fine, it's totally natural, and it will actually help increase the definition that you get in the V-line area. So that's exercise number 1, and I absolutely love that. And all of these lower abdominal exercises I'm gonna give you here, the 3 of them, I recommend you throw them into a superset circuit, or just throw them into a circuit together, one directly after the other, no rest in between. Get about 15 reps on each one of these, and you will total the lower abdominals. Okay, so let's get into the second exercise. This one is hell, I'm telling you, the flutter kicks are intense. So I've just positioned myself and pivoted off of my butt here. I got my hands planted beside me. They're not really doing much work. They're just there for stability purposes, okay? So you're just shallowly fluttering your feet here. You don't need to be too wide of a distance. It doesn't need to be like that. Like, I'm sticking between about 1 and 1.5 feet of leg room. It might even be a little bit more shallow than that. Now what I want you to do is focus on controllably moving those legs, activating the lower abdominals. They will already be activated from the position that you're in here, but by focusing on squeezing those lower abdominals for each and every single repetition, you're really gonna allow the effect of the exercise to just be maximized so that you get the most amount of each repetition when you're performing this. Now, our finishing exercise, the reverse crunch. Love this exercise. Now, the one thing I need you to know here is when you're performing these, you'll notice me doing it here. It's very subtle. You might not notice me doing this, but my feet never actually touch the ground. And this was actually the same for the flutter kicks as well. They come extremely close, but they never actually touch the ground. This keeps my lower abdominals engaged the entire time. Now I want it to be nice and slow and under control. When you start thrusting those legs back really fast and then bringing them right back up, you're gonna be incorporating a ton of other muscle groups outside of just the lower abdominals, And the effectiveness of the exercise for that lower ab area to get the V cut is going to be minimized. And if you want to actually try and maximize the effectiveness of this, after you bring in those legs out and they're at the point when they're fully locked out, and as I said, they're hovering above the ground, they never actually touch. So hovering them about 1 to 2 inches off the ground, hold that for between 3 to 5 seconds and then bring them back in, and you're going to be able to maximize the amount of targeting that you're going to be able to get for the lower abdominals. Push it to the point where your lower abs are screaming. Do this consistently and you will develop this, okay? I'm telling you. If you're not at the point where your lower abs are like dying to just be like, dude, stop, you're not gonna get the lower abs. That's one of the main things. I'm giving you guys the keys to the kingdom here, but you need to push it. Okay, now for the last 2 exercises, we're gonna be targeting the obliques. Now, like I said, the last exercise here is the one I truly credit a lot of my V cut to. But the first one here, the Russian twist, this exercise is almost on the same level. Like, these are super, super powerful for developing the obliques, and I really can thank these exercises for that. So for the Russian twist, you'll notice my feet are elevated the entire time. Now, when you're doing this, your feet aren't touching the ground here in this position that I'm in. You're incorporating the lower abdominals as well, which is terrific because, as we've mentioned, the lower abdominals are terrific for helping you with the V cut. Now, the main thing that I need to emphasize when you're doing these Russian twists is that you're not using your arms as if you were canoeing, bringing the dumbbell over on each side. You'll notice that my arms are completely stationary in this, or as stationary as I can possibly do it. All I'm doing is I'm rotating with my trunk. When you rotate strictly with your trunk, you're gonna be engaging the obliques to a whole nother level. Most guys, and when I say most, I mean 50, 60, maybe even 70% of guys that do Russian twists are just doing it with their shoulders and their arms, and they're just trying to slam the plate on the ground. For one, when you do it with your arms, you're doing it with your arms. You're not doing it much with your obliques. And number 2, when you slam the ground with it, that's when you take time out of tension, okay? So when it touches the ground, you're not having to do much work. You're not having to do any work when the dumbbell's on the ground or when the plate's on the ground. So when you keep it and you prevent the plate from touching the ground the entire time, the time under tension increases, so you're boosting that up. You increase the amount of demand that you get on the obliques, and dude, it's nuts. For this exercise, I recommend about 20 total repetitions. So that's 10 on each side. Squeeze with the obliques, slow and under control, as I've been mentioning. Don't let that plate slam. Don't use your arms. It's all obliques. Now, here is the final exercise, and my absolute favorite for developing the obliques, the dumbbell side bend. Now, this is extremely important. Guys perform this wrong all of the time. When you're doing this, you're not just swinging the weight over, okay? I want you to think of this as if you had your hand behind your head. This is how I learned how to do it properly, by the way. You got your dumbbell in here. We're focusing on targeting the left side of the obliques, okay? So I got my dumbbell here. What I'm aiming to do is bring that elbow down as close as I can to my hips. By focusing on doing that motion, I naturally just contract my obliques to a point that you would not normally do if you were just to think bend to the side, bend to the side, bend to the side. Once you can totally contract the muscle by thinking about it properly and you can activate it, that's when your whole oblique game is really gonna step it up. Because there was times when I was just performing the motion, just side bend, side bend, side bend, and I wasn't actually trying to contract the muscle, and I was just trying to do the movement. Focus on squeezing those obliques, okay? And if you don't have the ability to put your mind in the muscle to contract it like that, then like I said, hand behind the head, bring that elbow to the hip. Now, one of the most important points that I want to make here is that you're not bringing your head, okay, let me try and exemplify this, okay? You're not bringing your head backwards. You see how my elbow is past the point of my hips? This is another common mistake that a lot of guys make. And when you do this, you're actually going to be activating a lot of your lower back, which is not what you want to do, and you're putting your body in this crazy awkward position where you're likely going to get injured. So you want to keep that elbow in line with the hip the entire time. This way, you strictly target the obliques and you avoid any possibility of injuring yourself or of doing anything stupid in the gym. So make sure for this exercise, I always got about 15 repetitions on each side, that you're using enough weight. Don't slack on this one. I would err on the side of using too much weight for this one, because most of the time when guys start this exercise, they pick a weight that's way, 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 way too light. So I want you to think that, take that into consideration if you have done this exercise, or if you think you're gonna try this exercise and you go, yeah, I can probably do the 40s. try 60s, okay? Maybe try 50s first, but I want you to try and push it and do a little bit more than you think you can, because guys always underestimate how much strength they have in the obliques, and as such, they don't really get the full training out of it. And as I mentioned with the lower abdominals, if you're gonna be performing these exercises, push it to the point where your abs are going or your obliques are going, holy hell, I can't handle this. That's the point you want to get to. Get it to that point and incorporate these exercises and put them into a set, even the oblique ones, just one exercise directly after the other. Put them into a set and perform them 2 times per week to target the lower abs and to target the obliques, obliterate them, and I promise you, man, the amount of development you're gonna have in that V-line area, yours is gonna look like mine in absolutely no time. But as I mentioned, you need to have the body fat percentage low enough in order for this to actually work. So there you guys go. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope I was able to shine some light on the process of developing some V-line abs. If you guys enjoyed the video, then be sure to give it a like down below, and also be sure to subscribe for weekly workout tips and nutrition tips that you will not want to miss. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. See you in the next video.